Welcome to Smash and Compare. Here's a shocking fact for you. The first Smash game was made in 1999. Okay, so you probably already knew that. But did you know that Pokemania was a big thing in the late 90s? Pokemon was insanely popular, even more popular than it is now. The games had recently come out and it was a worldwide sensation. However, that means that Smash Bros. 64 was released right in the middle of all that hype. So you can bet your only Master Ball that all those Pokemaniacs were super excited when a certain little electric rat was shown in trailers. And when those kids played the game for the first time, they were probably amazed by both the fact that they could beat up popular characters like Mario and Samus, and that their Pokemon knew more than 4 moves. So let's pick a starter and ride our bikes indoors. Pikachu's entry in every game besides Melee is a Pokeball being thrown, and Pikachu emerging from said Pokeball. For those of you who haven't played a Pokemon game, Pokeballs are used to capture Pokemon. Whenever a trainer would release a Pokemon for battle, this is the general animation that takes place throughout the series. Pikachu is a very quick character, being able to move fast on the ground and having a lot of mobility in the air. However, his walk, wall jump, jumps, and duck don't really have any history behind them. I mean, his run could be compared to his run in the anime, though that might just be a stretch. His crawl, however, actually changes his hitbox. If Pikachu crawls forward, it's just a normal crawl with his usual hitbox, while if Pikachu crawls backward, then for some reason he sticks his tail up in the air while he moves. This increases the height of the hitbox, and it's actually possible to have things like stray lasers hit him and rack up damage. Pikachu's regular ground combo is a headbutt, though to be honest, the move is practically useless when only used once. But by spamming the attack button, you can make it be a good move for trapping opponents. In Brawl and Smash 4, you can hold the button to increase the move's damage and even have the possibility of tripping your opponent. This is definitely one of those rare instances where a really weak move can still be useful. This move is a reference to the headbutt move from the Pokemon games, but what's strange is that Pikachu can only learn this move in Generation 2 games, and the original Smash was released before it even existed. So in the original Super Smash Bros., Pikachu had a move he couldn't actually learn in his original games. It does 2% in every game, minus Smash 4 where it does 1%. For his F-tilt, Pikachu will stand on his front paws and kick his hind legs forward. The move has above decent range and can be angled. In Smash 4, if angled up, it does more damage, but it has a chance to trip if angled down. It does 9 to 11% in 64, 7 to 9 in Melee, and 8 to 10% in Brawl and Smash 4. Pikachu slashes the air above him with his tail for his U-tilt. This move has poor range, though it can be used to juggle other fighters, most notably fast fallers. The move can also be used in combos because of this. This move, along with all of his other moves that involve his tail, most likely come from a move called Tail Whip. In 64, it does 11% damage, 6% to 7 in Melee, 5 to 7% in Brawl, and 5% in Smash 4. His D-tilt is a simple tail whip on the ground. In Melee, it isn't the best move. The range is decent, but it has low damage, almost no knockback, and has a bit of lag. It can be used for edge guarding, but there are other better edge guarding moves available with Pikachu. In Brawl and Smash, the move has less lag and is fairly quick, and it even can trip opponents. In 64, it does 12%, 7% in Melee, 7 in Brawl, and 6% in Smash 4. Pikachu's dash attack lunges forward with a headbutt. The move does have some knockback and can KO on the edge of platforms. However, the move in each game is laggy, easy to shield grab, and just downright easy to punish in general. So use this move wisely and not recklessly, and you might just be able to release its full potential. In 64, it did 12%, 8% in Melee, 7% in Brawl, and 6 to 10% in Smash 4. Pikachu's F-Smash is electrifying. Pikachu will launch a small ball of electricity in front of him. This move is sometimes considered a pseudo-projectile, because even though the move is connected to the character, the hitbox is somewhat disjointed, like Ike's U special. The disjointed hitbox makes the move great for edge guarding, and it's just all around a good and powerful move. Though the move originates from moves like Thundershock and Thunderbolt from the Pokemon games, the way the move looks and functions is more like electric moves used in the Pokemon anime, where they often portrayed electric moves as streams of electricity. It does around 18% in 64, 18 to 21% in Melee, 14 to 20% in Brawl, and 12 through 18% in Smash 4. Pikachu's U-Smash is a tail attack above its head. This attack is also very powerful and breaks the record for the strongest U-Smash in Melee. The attack can be used to set up for combos and juggling. And of course, like pretty much all the tail moves, the U-Smash is most likely inspired by Tail Whip. It does 9 to 18% in 64, 7 to 19% in Melee, and 7 to 14% in Brawl and Smash 4. Pikachu's D-Smash is him spinning on the ground while electricity appears around him. It's a multi-hitting attack and good for accumulating damage. It also comes out fairly quickly. A downside, however, is that it isn't too hard to escape from, so you might not land the final hit, which in and of itself has a good vertical knockback. The move is also a good spacing tool. It does 13 to 16% in 64, 13 to 14% in Melee, 15% in Brawl, and 13 in Smash 4. In Smash 64, Pikachu sticks out his foot in front of him for his N-Air. It's similar to Mario's. It's a good wall of pain move and can be used to pull off some nice tricks. Though in the later titles it was changed into a somersault, just like Kirby. The move comes out really fast and has a nice horizontal knockback. This makes it a good finisher and edge guarding move. In 64, it does 11 to 14%, 9 to 12% in Melee, 6 to 12% in Brawl, and around 5 to 9% in Smash 4. Pikachu's F-Air is a little mouse spinning in a corkscrew with electricity surrounding him. The move has quite a lot of horizontal range for an aerial, though the move isn't really that powerful, but it does have almost no ending lag, making it easy to follow up on. It does up to 21% in 64, 7% in Melee, 11% in Brawl, and 7 to 11% in Smash 4. Pikachu's B-Air in 64 is a kick from behind, nothing too special. In Melee it was changed into a spinning attack. Basically it's his D-Smash without all the fancy lightning effects. The move is a multi-hitting attack with fairly decent range, damage, and knockback. However, the move has a lot of landing lag, which can leave Pikachu incredibly vulnerable. So when using this move, it's very important to make 100% sure that it's going to connect. It does 14 to 16% in 64, 4 to 12% in Melee, 11% in Brawl, and 10% in Smash 4. Pikachu's U-Air is a pretty good move, minus some of the ending lag. In the move, Pikachu will bring his tail over his head in an arc, similar to his up smash. The move has weak knockback, though this is actually an advantage. This allows you to easily gimp, juggle, and edge guard. In Melee, if the tip of the tail hits, then occasionally it'll send characters in a semi-spike trajectory. It does 10% in 64, 4% in Melee, 4 to 6% in Brawl, and 4 to 5% in Smash 4. And now for the last aerial, Pikachu's D-Air. This move is pretty much a reversal of his forward air, as it's just a spinning attack downwards. The move has horizontal knockback, and in Smash 64, if Pikachu lands on the ground while this attack is still in motion, then a small shockwave shoots out and damages nearby foes. Unfortunately, the move has noticeable startup and landing lag, so caution is a must. It does 13% in 64, 12% in Melee, and 12 to 16% in Brawl in Smash 4. Pikachu's pummel is a quick jolt of electricity to the opponent, doing 3% in Melee and about 2% in Brawl in Smash 4. His forward throw in Smash 64 has him grabbing the opponent, flipping with them, and then releasing them. In all later games, Pikachu uses electricity to shock foes on his back and then launch them for a multi-hitting attack. In Melee, it wasn't too good of a move due to its low knockback, but it's gotten better over time. In Brawl, the move can actually chain grab many characters, like Sheik, and in Smash 4 you can follow up the move with a U-Smash or an N-Air. It did 12% in 64 and around 10% in the later 3 games. In Smash 64, Pikachu's B-throw was shocking opponents who were on him, so basically it was his current F-throw. While in future titles, Pikachu will roll backwards and throw the opponent. The move does throw your opponent a nice and lengthy distance, which makes it a good and effective move when used by the edge. Some could say this move is based on the move submission from the Pokemon titles, though it's really unlikely. It does 18% in 64 and around 9% in the later 3 games. Pikachu's U-throw is a headbutt that sends opponents upwards. The move doesn't have too much knockback, but it can lead to a U-Air or U-Smash. And Smash 4 can follow up into his D-Special at higher percents. It does around 10% in Melee and Brawl and 4% in Smash 4. His D-throw in every game will make Pikachu toss the opponent on the ground where Pikachu will then jump on them. It's a good move and it can even KO lighter characters like Jigglypuff early if you follow it up with a U-Smash. In Brawl you can chain grab characters as well, most notably Fox and Sheik. And in Smash 4 you can follow up the move with practically any aerial. It does around 10% in Melee and Brawl and 8% in Smash 4. Pikachu's end special is called Thunder Jolt. For this move, Pikachu will fire a blue electric sphere that goes diagonally. However, if the move is used while grounded or hits the ground after being used in the air, then it'll start to arch in a wave-like pattern along the surface of the platform. What makes this move interesting is that it can actually climb up walls and ceilings, though in Smash 64 the hitbox didn't match the visual effect. Instead, the hitbox would just hug the ground. In Melee they made the hitbox match the visual jolt of lightning, and they also placed a hitbox under it, so the move could reach crouchers, but this low coverage hitbox was removed in Brawl. Now unlike most of Pikachu's moves, this one actually has a bit of history, though it actually comes from the Pokemon trading card game. There's a lot of moves that are exclusive to the card game. Thunder Jolt was one of those moves. The aerial version does 10% in 64 in Melee, 7% in Brawl, and 5% in Smash 4. The ground version does 7% in 64 in Melee, 6% in Brawl, and 3 to 6% in Smash 4. When playing as Pikachu, if you perform the side special Skull Bash, then Pikachu will perform a Headbutt. It's not all that special, but the move can be charged and get really powerful. When fully charged, he will launch about the length of Final Destination. This move is very similar to Luigi's side special Green Missile, though Pikachu's version has a 0 chance of misfiring and it can't be charged infinitely, something that Luigi could do in Brawl. The move is also great for recovery, especially in the newer games, since not only does the move charge faster than in Melee, but it also doesn't make Pikachu helpless when used in the air. The move comes from a move with the same name in the Pokemon series. In the first 2 generations of Pokemon, Pikachu could learn this. It took 2 turns to execute, which probably explains its charging capability. In Melee, the move had electric effects despite it being a normal type move in Pokemon. And a fun fact, not only will Melee CPUs never use Skull Bash to recover, but they will never charge it either. In Melee it does 4 to 29%, 7 to 25% in Brawl, and 6 to 22% in Smash 4. Now here comes his up special, Quick Attack. If you use this move, then Pikachu will zip around in any direction you'd like. It's similar to Firefox, but faster and less damaging. It didn't even deal damage in Smash 64 and was the only move in the game that didn't. But Quick Attack is much more valuable than you may immediately think. If you quickly use the move again in a different direction after executing it, then Pikachu will actually use the move a second time. This does cause him to self-destruct, but those 2 quick jolts of flying Pikachu can really make a difference in a match. In Smash 64 it was arguably the best recovery in the game, and arguably the only unpredictable one. Since Pikachu basically had a speed stat higher than the speed Deoxys with this move, it's extremely hard to harm him when he's using the attack. There also aren't many points in the move where Pikachu can actually get hurt. But if it's trying to escape an unfavorable situation or just stalling on the edge, this move will get you out of trouble in a breeze. When Melee came around, the move was changed so that it deals damage and you can't zip twice in the same direction. In Brawl, the range was reduced and it introduced a new technique. You can now cancel the move to the ground. The technique is called Quick Attack Canceling and it's used as an easier approach option. This move most likely comes from the Pokemon titles. Quick Attack is a weak move, but it has the advantage of always allowing the user to attack first. Although it's a normal type move, it has little electric effects when used in Super Smash Bros. The first and second warp respectively do 3 to 2% in Melee and Brawl. Each warp does just about 2% in Smash 4. If you overhear someone play with Pikachu, you might hear the game repeatedly say, Pika, Pika, Pika. That would be his down special, Thunder. For this, Pikachu will call upon a giant thunderbolt to come crashing down on him. The lightning bolt will come from above, and if it doesn't hit any platforms, it'll crash into Pikachu. When the lightning collides with the yellow rat, a shockwave will appear around Pikachu. The shockwave is not only more powerful than the lightning bolt itself, but it also briefly makes Pikachu invincible, though it does make you stall in place. This move is known for being one of the most spammable moves in the whole series. In the original Smash Bros., the move is used in combos a lot to KO above the upper blast line. In Melee, it comes from a thundercloud, kind of capping how far up the move can hit. Melee also considers it a projectile and allows you to keep on reflecting or absorbing those thunder spammers. In Brawl, the move can now go through platforms at the start and has more KO potential. And since Pikachu bounces up a bit with this move in the air, you can stall for a bit and create a huge wall of pain to effectively edgeguard with it. In Smash 4, Meteor Smash Hitbox was added to the cloud the move spawns from, which is rather unreliable and makes thunder spiking much harder to do. The move comes from an attack in the Pokemon games of the same name. The move performs the same way it did in Smash Bros., big lightning bolt and all. The only exception is that in the original games, thunder lands on the opponent and not on Pikachu himself. The move does 12% for the bolt and 16% for the blast in 64, 10% for the bolt and 17% for the blast in Melee and Brawl, and 6% to 8% for the bolt and 15% for the blast in Smash 4. Now for the final smash, Volt Tackle. Pikachu will turn into a huge ball of electricity. When this happens, Pikachu can move around the stage and go nuts. It's pretty short and around the end he'll start to slow down. This would be a great move, but Pikachu has awful controls while in this state. More than likely the blue sphere will not let you go anywhere you want it to, and if the move ends under the stage, then you better hope you can recover. The reason for this is because the move isn't directly controlled by the player. Instead, the player kinda controls a pivot point that Pikachu follows. This pivot point became visible in Smash 4. Before the move starts to slow down, however, it can actually go through walls. This move can sometimes lag if you pause on the final smash and move the camera while damaging sparks are flying out of the blue ball. But where does it come from? In the post-Generation 2 Pokemon games, if you give your Pikachu a light ball and burn it with another Pikachu or a Ditto, then you get a Pichu with Volt Tackle, which can evolve into Pikachu. Volt Tackle itself is very powerful and, unlike the final smash, has 100% accuracy. The move does have recoil damage, which thankfully wasn't implemented into Smash. Though it's kind of a reference in Pokemon instead of Smash, it's nice to know that the English name might come from the anime Tekkaman. That show has an attack named Volt Tekka. The function and appearance of the move in Smash Bros. Is based off the Sega Genesis game Pulseman. In the game, the main character used an attack called Volt Tester that looked and functioned like the final smash. The Pulseman attack is also the origin of the Japanese name of the move. At its core, the final smash is mainly a reference to the Pokemon move. In Brawl it does 13 to 25% and 8% in Smash 4, with the sparks only doing 1% damage. Pikachu has 3 taunts in Brawl in Smash 4. The first is Pikachu creating rings of electricity around him while saying, P. The second is his taunt in 64 in Melee. It's him standing while waving and saying, Pika Pika. And finally the last one is him rolling on the ground saying, Pika. Pikachu isn't considered to have idle poses in Melee. The animations he had that weren't idle poses later became so in Brawl and Smash 4. These 2 idle poses are him scratching his ears and looking around. His victory theme is a segment of the Pokemon title screen music. Pikachu has kept the same victory poses from Smash 4 over the years. His first one is him backflipping, turning around and facing the camera. This is actually his character select screen animation from the original Smash 64. His second victory pose is him twitching and scratching his ears. And finally, his last pose is him sleeping, because even champions need rest sometimes. As a little bit of side history, you might have noticed that when Pikachu rides a Warp Star or the Dragoon in Brawl, he won't just ride on it, he'll surf. This is a reference to the Surfing Pikachu game in Pokemon Yellow. It's a minigame hidden inside the game that required a Surfing Pikachu. To get a Surfing Pikachu, you'd have to either get one from an event or do a bunch of crazy requirements at Pokemon Stadium. As some more side history, you might notice that Pikachu's Disney animation in Smash 4 after, say, breaking his shield, makes him have swirly eyes. These little swirls are the same expression Pikachu would have when being knocked out in the Pokemon anime. Also, Smashing compares on Twitter and Instagram. It's the coolest thing ever. You get daily Smash facts, polls, giveaways, and updates on the show, so make sure to follow those. Leave a like if you want and tell us what you thought of today's episode. Thanks a bunch for watching, and we'll speak with you all soon.
Hey guys, thanks for sticking around till the end of this video. If you've ever been interested in helping out with this channel, we need a volunteer to help us collect gameplay footage for Smash to Compare right now. What we would need you to do is to first own all 4 Super Smash Bros. Games. If you have Smash for the 3DS plus a 3DS capture card, that would be even better, but that's not required. We also need you to own an HD capture card that can at least capture at 720p 60 frames per second. 1080p 60 frames per second would be better, but again is not required. We also need you to have the time to log into Skype daily to keep up with our team, and we'll need you to capture footage for us at least once a week, if not more. If you're interested, please email me at nathanielbandy@hotmail.com. Thanks again, and I hope you have a great day.